Aquabiz, all the best knowledge for aquatic system.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Dafna, I'm the Global Research Manager of Phibro Aqua. Today I'm going to present you the prospects of organic acid as a sustainable alternative to antibiotics. Okay, so the outline for today, I'll briefly talk about what are organic acid. We will look at the mode of action, both the metabolic and the antipathogenics, whereas I'm going to focus on the antipathogenic effect. And then I'll sum it up and try to deepen your understanding of organic acid as a sustainable alternative to antibiotics. So organic acid contain one or more carboxyl group. They do not fully dissociate in water, and they are widely distributed in nature. They are used as food preservative for humans, so probably you encounter them in some of your feed that you purchase. Mode of action, and before I dive into the mode of action, I want to say that it's very difficult for us to approach our customer, whether it's a feed mill or a farmer, and talk about mode of action before talking about improvement of growth and survival. So organic acid has an enormous amount of data that show improvement of growth and survival, which allow us to go and talk about the mode of action. So from a metabolic point of view, organic acid have a broad pKa values that lower the buffering capacity of a feed formulation. They activate digestive enzyme, and they increase protein digestibility. From a health point of view, they provide a very vast antimicrobial effect, and from a feed preservative point of view, they improve feed hygiene by preventing spoilage and contamination. pKa value. Now, pKa value is one of the more confusing concepts of organic acid, so this is why I start with this concept, just to get it out of the way. So a pKa value is a pH at which an acid is half dissociated. So once you put organic acid in the water, the hydrogen ions start to release themselves, and the pH level drops. Now, for organic acid, we have I'll say a semi-broad pKa value, so it's run between 2.5 to 4.95. That will be the maximum for organic acid. And we have a high pKa value and a low pKa value. A high pKa value means that the organic acids are weaker. So they're very against microbial and fungi, and I'm going to elaborate on that in the next few slides. And a low pKa acid means that it's a stronger acid, and it has a greater impact on the digestive system, and it actually lowers the pH in the digestive and the metabolic system, and we see an improvement of protein digestion. Now, when we're talking about organic acid, when we look at a blend, it's really effective if you choose organic acids that have a high and a low pKa value, because you succeed to gain out of those both impact. So if we look here, this is just an example of some of the organic acids that exist in the feed industry, and you can see the different pKa value, and I'll say that the fumaric acid probably will be the lowest pKa value in this group, and it has a very strong effect on the metabolic system compared to propionic acid, for instance, which has a very high pKa value and will have a very strong antimicrobial effect. Buffering capacity, this is the second interesting concept in the metabolic system. Buffering capacity is basically the measure of the amount of acid required to reach a given pH. So this number is always given in a relation to a pH. Now, each raw ingredients that we have a very distinct buffering capacity. Normally, we'll have protein and minerals that have a very high buffering capacity value compared to different grains that have a lower buffering capacity, and I'm going to show it to you in a table in a slide. High buffering capacity of a feed formulation means that the fish and the shrimp need to release lots of gastric acid in order to lower the pH in the metabolic system for digestion. If we have a low buffering capacity for a feed formulation, the shrimp or the fish need to release less gastric acid for digestion. So we're going to see it in this table. So if we look here, you see wheat meal, and this is, again, as I say, this is acid binding capacity and buffering capacity is the same thing. So we see that the number is always in a relation to a pH, and we see that wheat meal, which have a fairly low protein level, have a low level of a buffering capacity compared to meat and bone meal or fish meal that have higher level. Minerals have very high level of buffering capacity. And then if we look at the propionic, fumaric, and formic acid, we see very low level of acid binding capacity, which means that by adding organic acid to your feed formulation, you lower the buffering capacity of the formulation, and this is an improved protein digestion. And this is very easy to calculate, and if you work with different, I'll say, Brill or format or best mix feed formulation, you can actually do this calculation to your formulates, to your formula. So just to sum up the metabolic benefit of organic acids, they reduce buffering capacity of the feed formulation, they decrease the pH in the stomach and in the intestine, and they increase protein digestibility efficiency, especially for protein, due to the fact that protein need to have a very low pH for digestion. The antibacterial effect, so organic acid has the ability to inhibit pathogen by lowering the pH inside the cell wall. So how it works? The antimicrobial activity is caused by the ability of the organic acid to dissociate. So it's in its undissociated form, the acid molecule can penetrate the microbial cell wall, normally to a gram-negative bacteria, and inside the cell wall, the pH is higher than its pKa value. So inside the cell wall, the pKa will start to dissociate itself and release its hydrogen ion, and once it does that, the cell wall will try to push away the organic acids, and it will exhaust itself. It consumes enormous amount of energy, so it cannot multiply itself, and in the end, it will die. And this is how organic acid works against microbial. Now, each pathogen we work with, and each organic acid that we work with, and their different pKa value will be more beneficial to different pathogens. So, after we understand how it works against microbial, we will look at organic acid as a sustainable alternative to antibiotics. Now, what I'm going to show you, this is a minimum inhibitory concentration trial. This is an ongoing work for our R&D department. We are running those trials for quite some times. And what we did in this work, so we examined different pathogen, aquaculture-related pathogen, and different organic acid. And what you see here, actually, this is one of the latest trials that we ran. So we had 11 different organic acid blends. We had 8 new blends that we formulated, and then we had 3 commercial products that exist in the market. We had 6 replicates for each of these treatments, and then we had 3 more control treatment. So we had TSB plus bacteria, and gentamicin to see how it works with the pathogen, and then TSB plus BPS just to make sure that we have no contamination on our plates. We examined 3 different aquaculture pathogens. So we look at Vibrio harvii, Vibrio parahemolyticus, and Streptococcus agalacti. And then we start with a stock solution of 10,000 ppm. Now, 10,000 ppm will be equivalent to 10 kg per metric ton of feed. And then the incubation time ran between 24 to 48, and that depended on the different pathogens. And we conducted this trial in Phibro bacteriological laboratory in Bet Shemesh. This is a new laboratory of ours. Now, what you see here, this is a percentage of the remission of the pathogen. So the lower the number, the greater the remission. And you can see that per 10 kg, 5 kg, and 2.5 kg per metric ton, we see really nice remission of the pathogen. We see that one of our new formulation, number 7, had a really nice consistent, and it was superior to the 3 commercial product, and also was the best among the product that we tested, the new formulation. So we see really nice result with this formulation, and this is for Vibrio parahemolyticus. When we looked at Vibrio harvey, we saw really nice results for the higher dosages, and then when we look at the lower concentration for those blend from 1.250 gram per metric ton, we saw lower results, but up till 2.5 kg per metric ton, we saw really nice results. And then for the Streptococcus agalacti, we saw quite consistent result for formula 7 and 8 throughout the whole concentration. And again, they show superior results to the different blends that we created and a superior result to the 3 commercial blends. So just to sum up those trials that we ran, I think I loaded about hundreds of plates before the results that you see here. We did those trials on the individual organic acid. We did this trial with 7 different pathogens, and we needed to conduct lots of adjustments. So when you go into those MIC trials, you need to do lots of preliminary tests before you succeed to reach a very consistent plate. We saw that the new blend that we created shows superior result in inhibiting the 3 pathogens. And it was nice to see that even in the lower dosages, we saw really nice remission. And we find this MIC trial a really nice tool to examine in vitro effect on the different pathogen and the organic acid. I just want you to keep in mind that this is in vitro results. Sometimes we don't succeed to translate those results to in vivo. We do currently run in vivo trial with those 2 formulations that did really well. And I guess in our next visit here for our next customer conference, I'll show you the in vivo results. So this trial was actually a trial that was conducted here. I didn't know that Dr. Orpint is going to present the results, so I'm going to go through it quite briefly. This is a result with organic acid. It was conducted here in Kansas State University. You're going to see it a little bit nicer in terms of the organic acid just because I separated the results. So we had here the control versus organic acid blends in an inclusion rate of 2 kg per metric ton. We had 6 replicates. The duration was 8 weeks, and we had 25 shrimp per tank. The starting size was 2 grams, and the challenge was with Vibrio parahemolyticus. So here, I just want to show you the final total biomass. We saw an enhanced total biomass for the treatment that the organic acid were added and a reduced FCR. So this is in terms of the growth performance. When we look at the lipase and protease activity, once again, we saw elevated results of those 2 very essential enzymes. And I'll say that for lipase, for me, when I see elevated results of lipase, due to the fact that shrimp have a very limited amount of lipids that can be included in their feed formulation, seeing an enhanced enzymatic activity for lipase, it means that the shrimp can make the best out of the available lipids that we have in the diet. So I really like to see that. And of course, for protein, due to the fact that protein is such an expensive ingredient in the feed formulation. What we see here, this is the challenge that was conducted by immersion with Vibrio parahemolyticus. We see that the bacteria count under the normal condition and the bacteria count after the challenge. We saw the results for the hepatopancreas and for the intestines, and we saw very low concentration. Well, there is no Vibrio concentration in the hepatopancreas prior to the challenge, and then after the challenge, we see substantial lower results of the pathogen in the hepatopancreas and the intestines. So the results here were really nice. And another really interesting results were not actually the end, I'll say the end survival, which was higher in 7% in the organic acid trial, but actually when we started to do the challenge, the mortality in the control started a day after the challenge. So once Dr. Orapint applied the challenge, a day after the challenge, the fish, the shrimp in the control start dying. But then when we looked at the organic acid blend, we saw that it took the shrimp 6 days prior to the beginning of their mortality. And I think when you do, and you work with the farms that you constantly do pathogenic testing, 6 days following the outbreak of a disease to start having mortality, give you enough time to start doing treatment, to add some aeration, maybe lowers the density. So this was really nice to see, this lag time of 6 days prior to the mortality. So just to sum up this trial, we saw a promote shrimp production, and improve in digestive enzyme activity, improve in immunity under normal and challenge condition, and we saw an improve of survivability and a lag time of 6 days until mortality began when adding 2 kg per metric ton of organic acids. Now, organic acid improved feed hygiene. This is not the core of this product, but I always think that it's a really nice addition. In this trial, we took a commercial feed, and then we took a commercial feed, and we added 5 kg per metric ton of organic acid. We had 4 replicates. We ran the trial for 14 days, and we did we sampled the feed in 5 different sampling points. The results that you're going to see are from the last days. We put it in incubation in 28 degrees, and the humidity was very high, so between 75 to 85%. And we did bacteriological and mold counts for the feed. And why I show this trial is just because of those 2 footages. And this is a photo from the end of the trial. So what you see is the feed without the organic acid, and then the feed with the organic acid. And as you can see is the count. We have a substantial lower mold level in the feed with the organic acid, and then a very low bacterial level, again, with the feed with the organic acid. So it significantly lower the load of the bacteria and the mold, and we see the reduce of risk for feed degradation and spoilage during storage when adding organic acids. Now, I think that the technical aspects of nutritional feed additive are extremely important, especially for fish and shrimp production. Most of the nutritional feed additive need to go through extrusion, and after that, the feed is thrown into the water. And crustacean, as you all know, are very slow feeder, which is very frustrating for nutritionists. So when we look at leaching, I'll see that the last sampling point, the 30, T60, T30, and T90 are 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and 90 minutes. So what we did here, we took feed, we used 3 commercial products. Product A has 1 organic acid, is a blend of 1 organic acid. Product B is a blend of 2 organic acid, and then product C is a blend of 3 organic acids. We had 3 replicates, and then these 5 different time points. So T0 was we tested the feed right after the extrusion, and then 2 minutes after we throw the feed to the water, we took it and sampled it, and then 30, 60, and 90 minutes. And you can see that a blend of 3 organic acid had a substantially higher recovery rate, which means that we were able to find the organic acid in the feed. And the very, I'll say, surprising results were that after 90 minutes, that the feed with the organic acid were in the water, we saw almost 50% of recovery of the organic acid, which is quite high for nutritional feed additive. I don't know if you ever conducted those trials for different additives, but seeing after 90 minutes, 50% of the product is very high. And another technical aspect that is extremely important is to check for the pressure stability and for heat stability. And here we examined 3 different organic acids, formic, propionic, and fumaric acid. We saw that they are very heat stable. We saw no substantial change in physical property after reaching to 100 degrees. And then we saw that the ingredient remained active after this test where we reached 116 degrees and 1.8 bar, which simulate extrusion condition. So those results, the resilience of the organic acids were really good. And this is a sum of my presentation. So we looked at the technical aspect. We saw high heat stability for organic acid, very slow solubility, especially for a blend of organic acid. We saw the metabolic impact. We saw that organic acid with a low pKa value are very effective in promoting protein digestibility and increase enzyme activity. And when we look at the antimicrobial effect, and I think that this is the core of this presentation, we see that a range of organic acid will be very effective against different pathogens. A blend will definitely be more effective than using one organic acid in your feed. And this is a nutritional feed additive that you can add on a routinely basis throughout the whole cycle of the animal. Normally, the inclusion rates are quite small, are quite low, ranging between 2 to 3. You can, when there is a pathogen outbreak, you can increase a little bit the level of the organic acid, and we see very nice and consistent results of these products. And that's it. Exactly 20 minutes.